Aloha, I'm Lahaina Lee, and welcome to the Maui Real Estate Advisor podcast, where we talk about buying, selling, and investing in Maui real estate. This episode is our monthly July episode of our market report, where we take a look at sales, or the lack thereof, and what the trends are telling us about the market. We'll also zoom in on a segment, maybe even two, that are comparatively hot. And finally, we've got an update on Bill 9, the most consequential piece of legislation Maui has seen in some time. In fact, maybe we should start with Bill 9. If you've been watching or listening to this podcast or just watching what's happening on Maui, you know that Bill 9 is a measure to take away the legal right of roughly 7,000 condos to rent those properties for short-term vacation rental. The threat of that bill has played havoc with the market, and the message that's being sent has severely damaged tourism and, in turn, Maui's economy. Now, we'll dig into Maui's economy in a future episode. But for now, let's look at what's happening with the bill. Maui's Housing and Land Use Committee held hearings to hear testimony on the bill throughout much of June. Generally, those in favor of the bill believe that if the properties in question can no longer be used for short-term rental, they'll be available for affordable housing. Those opposed to the bill believe the bill will have a devastating effect on Maui's economy. And after all that time and all that testimony, the bill still has not been finalized and moved on to the county council for a vote. Why? Well, it's politics. And after the hearings, the council met in a closed session on July 2nd. According to Tamara Paulton, the council member representing West Maui, one of the most affected areas, the council members were getting briefed on how the county's attorneys will defend them if the bill passes. That can't be a good sign. Lawsuits have been promised by those who oppose the bill. Attorney David Louie, who just happens to be the former Attorney General of Hawaii, says the act is unconstitutional. The attorneys for the county say it is not. Either way, this process and this debacle is costing Maui taxpayers, I think the precise technical term is a buttload of money. And there's no way this bill will lead to affordable housing. With that said, what's happening in Maui's real estate market? Well, it's slow. And for those of you who are old enough to remember the Johnny Carson show, you'd know that after I say, boy, this real estate market is so slow, you would all respond, how slow is it? To which I say, it is so slow, our MLS days on market counter stopped counting in days and switched to dog years. Okay, I'm no Rodney Dangerfield, but right now, sales of both homes and condos are slower than 2009. And in case you've forgotten, that was the Great Recession, and there was nothing great about it. Today on Maui, it's a buyer's market almost everywhere. And the biggest opportunities are in the condo space. So, let's do the numbers. As always, we'll lead off with condos. Condo sales dropped again in June. After 3 straight months of 60 or more sales, June saw just 56 sales. That's a 13% drop from the 64 sales in May, and halfway through the year, it's going fast. 2025 sales are down almost 30% compared to the same time frame in 2024. And there is no relief in sight. Pending sales, the leading indicator of how many sales we'll have in July and August, are also down to just 80. Back in March, there were 104 condos under contract. The numbers have been sliding downhill ever since. If there's any good news for condo owners, it's that inventory is not climbing. At 872 condos for sales, that's a small decline from last month and a pretty good decline from April 1st number. Still, that is up more than 200 units from last June. And we have 15 months of inventory. That's a strong indicator of a buyer's market. And another telltale sign of a buyer's market, median selling prices. The median selling price for a condo dropped to $700,000. That's down 9% from last month, but more importantly, aside from that terrible number 675, back in January, 700,000 is the lowest median price since January of 2023. And even more concerning than that, the median selling price is off 18% in 2025 compared to the same period in 2024. And for those of you who haven't gotten over the dog years comment, the average days on market for active listings right now, it's 144. Oy. So, what's happening in home sales? Well, from the macro view, things are better. Last month ended with 66 sales. That's the second most sales in the last 12 months. And it's about the same number as June of 2024. But so far, year to date through the first 6 months of the year, home sales are down 15%. Pending sales also dropped from 120 in May to just 105 in June. And that's the second lowest number of pending sales in the last 12 months. Inventory stayed relatively flat. But if you look back over the last rolling 12 months, inventory was down in the 300s through 7 months. Then it topped 400 homes in February, and it's been rising steadily ever since then. Those aren't good signs for sellers, but statistically, we have a balanced market. Well, kind of. It's 6.6 months of inventory. The median selling prices remain fairly boring, chugging along at $1.3 million, give or take. And in fact, the median selling price for the first 6 months of 2025 is $1.3 million. And guess what? The median selling price for the first 6 months of 2024? Yeah, you got it. $1.3 million. Okay, I promised you a couple of bright spots. Both are in the single-family home space. And I'm selecting these based on what our Maui MLS describes as major areas. Remember, the single-family home space is pretty well balanced, but some areas on the island are winners, and some, they're not doing as well. Let's get a quick rundown of each of those areas, starting with East Maui, which includes Hana. It's a buyer's market due to 15 months of inventory. West Maui has 14 months of inventory, so that should be a buyer's market, should be. South Maui, with 13 months of inventory, is also a buyer's market, and the North Shore, which includes Haiku and Paia and Sparklesville, that has 8 months of inventory, so it still favors buyers. Now, bright spots, that includes Central Maui. With Kahului and Wailuku, it's been very steady for years now. It is the most affordable area on Maui, with a median selling price of $1.17 million and an average asking price of just under 1.4. And it's a seller's market with just 4 months of inventory. That was no surprise. However, Maui's upcountry did surprise me a little bit. I've been watching people move from Maui's lower elevation locations to the cooler climates upcountry for years, with a median selling price of just under 1.297 million. It's the second most affordable area on Maui, and with just 4 months of inventory, it too is a seller's market. So where does all of that leave us? In a market that's uncertain, sluggish, and increasingly segmented, the overall message is clear. This is a buyer's market, especially in the condo space where inventory is high, sales are down, and prices are slipping. But buried in the data are some signals worth paying attention to. If you're a buyer looking for value, your options have expanded. And if you're a seller, upcountry or in Central Maui, well, you're holding stronger cards than most. As for Bill 9, it's not just disrupting the short-term rental market. It's rattling confidence across the board, adding a heavy layer of risk for investors, owners, and even visitors. The irony? It's being pitched as a solution to our housing crisis, but it's more likely to tie up resources in litigation and bureaucracy while doing little to help local families find homes. Maui's real estate market is always unique, but right now it's also vulnerable. The opportunities are there, yeah, but so are the landmines. And whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to understand what's really going on, well, now's the time to move a little carefully and make informed decisions. We'll keep watching the trends, tracking the fallout from Bill 9, and spotlighting where the real action is. Thanks for tuning in. If you have comments or questions, drop them below or shoot an email to me at lee@alohapots.com. I answer every one. And if you like this one, give us a like and maybe send this episode to someone you know that's thinking about a Maui property. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Make sure you don't miss a thing. That's all for now. From the greatest island on earth, this is Lahaina Lee saying Aloha. Tony Brown produced this podcast. The information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not intended as a recommendation to invest in real estate or any other financial asset. We are not financial planners, certified public accountants, or attorneys. You should consult with a qualified professional before making any financial, legal, or investment decisions. All investments carry risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results.